Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Motivated Entrepreneurs. Today, I have got a wonderful, wonderful book review today. It's Saturday morning. It is episode 543, and we are talking all about Robert Maxwell. Now, if I'm honest, I'm trying to get up on my screen now. I'm kind of embarrassed to say that I didn't really know a lot about Robert Maxwell. It's a little bit before my time in terms of business, etc. But I don't know where it came on my radar, but it came on that I should read this book. And it's called Fall by John Preston. And I never, ever realized what an individual Robert Maxwell was. And obviously with Jeffrey Epstein as well, with Robert Maxwell's daughter later, it's she's involved, maybe not involved. I don't know. I don't want to implicate myself in any way, but in all that child trafficking and stuff, anyway, that's beside the by. But he ended the book on that, and I was like, oh my God, that is incredible. That's never part of the book. Do you know what? Robert Maxwell, basically, he was born in a war-torn country, and his family, his mum and dad was probably gassed. We don't know 100%, but there's probably gassed. And it's all about the rise and fall of Robert Maxwell. He was in the army. He was a captain in the army. Eventually, he killed people in the army, so he regretted it, etc. But obviously, you're in the army. It's wartime. Many people did. So you can't really hold that against him. Although obviously, it's not a nice thing to know that you've actually killed somebody in the army. But then it went on to his business career and how he started developing his businesses, his newspapers, etc. And then the fall. I didn't even know he died off a boat. Was he killed? Did he commit suicide? Did he fall? Was it an accident? Or did he even fake his own death? It's incredible because he left so many people penniless because of his actions. Now, many people have called him a thief. I don't think, the definition of a thief depends what your definition is. He was robbing Peter basically to pay Paul. He was trying to keep his businesses afloat, so he was robbing off one side of his business to pay the other side, and it was a big spider's web of robbing Peter to pay Paul. It's a fascinating book, and if anybody is interested in that sort of thing, I would 100% recommend it. I'll be honest, when it first started, I like reading these books when I'm on a long drive, when I know I can't take notes because I don't need to take notes because it's about somebody's life. It's an autobiography or a biography that I like to read in that set of circumstances. And I was traveling back from Windsor, which is about 4 hours away from my house. And so I knew that I had a long drive, the kids were asleep, wife was asleep, and I knew I could put it on. When I started listening to it on the motor, I was like, oh, for God's sake, what am I listening to this for? It seems boring. I don't even know anything about the guy. But the more and more I listened, the more and more I couldn't stop listening to it. And I read it within 3 days. It's quite a big book, and I couldn't put it down. I ended up going for walks just so I could listen to a book. If you're interested in the rise and subsequently the fall of many people of calling a charlatan, a robber, a thief, then this book is tremendous because Robert Maxwell was at the pinnacle. I think he was worth something like £1.2 billion. And in them days, I mean, in these days, it's still a lot of money, but in them days, it was a hell of a lot of money. And it was just a fascinating, it was entertaining. It was very, very entertaining. So if anybody is interested in that sort of thing, he had affairs. Do you know what? He seemed to be a very, very unhappy man. That's the overriding emotions that I got from this book, is I felt sorry for him. He was chasing something that he could never, ever find. And that, for me, tells you everything you need to about success. If you chase the money and chase the success, what you perceived as happiness, do you know what? If you're not happy right now where you are, money's not going to make you happy. Money doesn't make you happy. Money helps in certain situations. Of course it does. I think Rob Moore says he's been rich and he's been poor and he knows what he prefers. 100%. And other people say, show me a circumstance or a situation that money doesn't help. Yes, absolutely. But it doesn't create happiness. Money does not, or wealth does not create happiness. And I feel like that's a point that most people don't get. You've got to be happy, inwards happy with yourself right now, because no amount of money is going to change that. And Robert Maxwell, for me, I just think is a prime candidate for somebody who needed therapy, and therapy wasn't really talked about in them days, especially for men. And so I feel like that his life would have been much more beneficial if he could understand his emotions and thought process behind his actions internally, the internal monologue of his actions. I feel like that it would have really, really helped him just articulate and understand his thoughts and feelings. And in the end, he just alienated everybody, his wife, his lovers, he just seemed a very, very, his employees, he just seemed like a very, very unhappy person, and he didn't treat people with respect either, from what I've read in this book, which is upsetting because he achieved a lot, he lost a lot. His business is spiraled out of control because his ego was chasing something that his businesses couldn't support, and that was the biggest takeaway lesson for me, that I've got to be careful, because I know I've got a big ego. There's no doubt about it. I've got a big ego, and I don't know where the ego comes from, but part of me, I want to be successful because I care about what other people think. But then equally on certain levels, I don't give a shit what people think. So yeah, maybe I need therapy as well. But yeah, it's interesting to make sure you keep your ego in check all the time. Relationships, don't get too big for your boots. Don't ever think you're better than your partner. If you do, there's trouble. And don't ever get too big for your boots in terms of business as well, because as soon as you start getting too big for your boots, then it's over and done with. Next week, by the way, we've got an awesome book. I'll get the name of a book because it is one of my favorite all-time books that I have ever read, and it's Gerard Ratner. What an amazing man. The Rise, the Fall, and the Rise Again. Beautiful book. Beautiful. All right, my friends. Thank you so much for listening. I love you. I appreciate you. And I'll see you tomorrow morning. Bye-bye.